Well, now, if you're planning to visit France and want to wear a veil across your face, don't. The penalty for doing so under the law which came into force today is €150 and lessons in French citizenship. The number of French Muslim women who actually wear the niqab or burqa is pretty small, and no other European country has anything similar or any similar law. But France is especially fixated on the relationship between religion and the state, so the issue is inevitably being milked for political gain all round. Richard Watson has been assessing the reaction of British Muslims to the ban.
In London's East End today, there were plenty of women wearing face veils at a time when their counterparts in France have been publicly derided. A walking coffin is how one French minister described the burqa, while even President Sarkozy referred to them as a sign of debasement. In Paris today, the two women making a stand by flouting the new law were mobbed by the press. France follows Belgium in banning them in public places. And while there's no mainstream political appetite for similar moves in the UK, the issue will spark debate about freedom of choice, fundamentalist Islam and social integration. Here in the East End of London, it's actually quite common to see women wearing the headscarf or the hijab. It's not uncommon to see them wearing the full face veil, the niqab, which just leaves the eyes open for public view. So how does talk of banning the face veil play on these streets?
Hi, my name is Jasmine Amlai. I'm a little bit magician. I'm trying to do some magic. I love children. I love magic.
A few hundred yards away, we caught up with Jasmine, a Bangladeshi Muslim who wanted to tell us how she's suffered for not conforming to fundamentalist religious doctrine. Not only did she marry a Christian man, she refuses to wear the veil and performs magic tricks, the work of the devil for some, even though her audiences are school kids.
See?
She thought coming to London a decade ago would free her of social pressure, but elderly men and some women have been coming into the shop where she works, making it clear they disapprove of women dressed like her.
I'm wearing one dress, like, this design, and the man, when I'm give the chance, the man told me, "Why are you showing your body? You're showing your body?" I said, "Look, this is not your business. Please control your eye." And that's time the gentleman is very angry and my body is shaking.
How many times do people actually come into your shop and raise this with you?
Yeah, it's 5 to 6 times directly, and sometimes they do indirectly. And this two lady told me, "When you open your hair, if some other person look your hair, you going to hell."
Some of her Muslim critics have even complained to her employer, who supports her. But she's been left badly shaken by what she sees as intimidation.
Honestly, I'm also worried about my job. But I'm not going to leave this area. I'm fight for this because I'm no criminal. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not going to be wearing burqa, and I'm not going to be wearing like this long gown. No, I like what I want, and I'm not doing any crime.
Whoever wants to come and join us outside, please do.
Some Muslim groups argue that any obsession with face covering is a pre-Islamic cultural practice with no support in the Quran. Controversially, one academic and imam from Oxford chose to burn burqas to prompt debate.
This cultural rag, this cultural cloth, is pre-Islamic in origin. It really found first time in the Byzantine and Persian empires, when the aristocratic men of those days would regard their women as property, and they would then cover and conceal their property from the gaze of the riff-raff, from the hoi polloi. Ultimately, this is about patriarchy, sexism, misogyny. It's about controlling women, getting men to define their identity.
We tried hard today in East London to persuade numerous women wearing the veil to explain their decision. None wanted to go on camera, but some simply said it was beautiful, but declined to elaborate. This young woman did agree to talk about her decision to cover her hair. Why do you feel it's necessary to cover up?
Because if you don't, it's like, I don't really know. It's more by, because we've been taught that since we were young, that you're meant to cover up so that you're not seen like as too westernized and stuff. But we just do it out of choice, to be honest.
So can it ever be justified to limit a citizen's choices if they don't directly harm others for the sake of cultural cohesion or liberation of a larger population. The French clearly believe so, but critics here think they've got it all wrong.
I want to engage as a British citizen, as a Muslim, as part of my society. I happen to wear this covering and don't believe that niqab is an obligation. However, there are some women, through their own religiosity and their own personal spiritual journey, who do. Let's allow them to do that. Let's allow them to engage as citizens and ask them to give back to society. But let's not alienate and isolate this very, very small number of women because we think we know best.
But those who say they're experiencing cultural oppression have a different view.
I think Britain need to ban the burqa immediately. Immediately. It is the high time. It is high time. Otherwise, it's like a disease. It's like grow quickly, and it is the high time.
Jasmine faces local criticism for her dress sense, her Christian husband, and for the magic trick she loves performing for children, in perhaps the most multicultural city in Europe. The question is, would banning burqas help?
Well, we're joined now from Washington, D.C. by the Egyptian journalist and lecturer Mona El-Tahawi. Here in the studio is Sam Harris, whose new book, The Moral Landscape, argues that religion is a failed science. Let's discuss, first of all, what it is legitimate for the state to tell people about what they may or may not wear. Mona El-Tahawi, do you think the state is entitled to tell people they can't wear certain items of clothing?
Well, the state does all the time. The state tells you that you can't leave your front door naked because you'll be arrested for indecent exposure. And many states here in the US make a point of saying that you can't have 3 or more people in a public place with their face covered. So as far as France is concerned, I believe it's the right thing to ban the face veil in public. I just believe it's done by the wrong people because I believe Sarkozy and his government are racist. But they're the right wing and I oppose them. I oppose the burqa or the niqab because it's imposed on women by the Muslim right wing. So I take a stand against the Muslim right wing as well, which loves to tell women how to dress.
Sam Harris, do you think the state is entitled to tell people how they may or may not dress?
Well, yeah, Mona makes a good point that clearly we do this in any case. You're not free to take off your pants in a market or a restaurant.
That's on grounds of offence to other people. That's not on grounds of religious expression.
Well, I think there's something quite sinister about this religious expression.
Oh, you find it offensive, do you? Do you find it frightening?
No, it has nothing to do with being frightened. It has to do with a recognition that some significant percentage of the Earth's women and girls are being forced to live their lives.
You know they're all being forced, do you?
No, not all.
My point is you don't.
No, some clearly are forced, and the issue is the coercion of women and girls. Now, this concern is only slightly eased when you can find a few women who say they're not being forced. I think we should be slow to take their word for it, given how coercive the environment actually is.
Well, we're now joined by Tariq Ramadan, who's in a studio in Detroit. Tariq Ramadan, do you think the state is entitled to tell people what they may or may not wear?
No, I think it's quite clear that this is a political decision which has nothing to do with what we are talking about. We are acting now against the freedom of expression, freedom of religion for the people. I'm not for the niqab. I think it's not an Islamic prescription. But if we want to solve the problem, this is not the way forward. It's a question of educating people from within the community. But now you can't understand what is happening in France. And this decision, if you don't put it into the context that you have populist parties and far-right parties that are gaining ground, and this decision is a political decision targeting 2,000 women and telling us it's about religion and freedom of expression. This has to do with the political atmosphere, which is very, very negative in France today, as well as, to tell you the truth, what is happening in Europe. It's very, very worrying for all the European citizens, not only the Muslims.
You see, Mona El-Tahawi, you support this ban on the burqa or the niqab. Would you also support a ban on covering the hair on women's heads, for example?
No,
What's the
I wore a
difference?
headscarf. I wore a headscarf for 9 years. I chose to wear it and I chose to take it off. The difference is the face. The difference is the fact that the niqab dangerously equates piety with the total disappearance of women. And it's not about choice here because we're talking about an ideology, the Salafi Wahhabi ideology that imposes niqab on women. This is such a misogynistic ideology that it does not even believe in the concept of a woman's right to choose anything but her right to cover her face. Now, Tara is saying that he supports freedom of expression, And yet here in the US and freedom of religion, he supported moving the Islamic Community Center near Ground Zero out of concern for American sensitivities. And yet here he is supporting covering women's face. Well, I support banning the face veil. It is exactly the same.
Okay, I'm telling you, we are not getting into the question of the mosque and where it is in relation to Ground Zero. Let's stick to this question that we originally started out on, which is the question of what it is okay for the state to tell people they cannot wear. Now, Tariq Ramadan, the point is that it's something specific about the face, the covering of the face, that people find offensive. Would you accept that point?
Of course, I can accept that, and I myself don't think that, but it's not for the state to say this. And by the way, many of the women who are wearing the niqab are converted to Islam, and they are saying we are doing on our own. This is our own choice. Who is the state? Who are the people in the state to tell the people the way they have to dress and not to dress? I think that this has nothing to this discussion about freedom for them. It's once again to target the Muslims and once again about the women, and just to make it clear today that we are resisting the Muslim presence, and by targeting the symbol, we are attacking the Muslim communities. It has nothing to do with this women's freedom, because they don't care about this. How are they going to deal with the wives of the princes and the kings who are coming to come in France? By banning them, they are not going to do that.
Okay. Would you extend, Sam Harris, this ban to, for example, clerical vestments, monks' habits, nuns' habits? Why not?
This doesn't really have to do with the outward signs of religion or with clothing. This is Mona raised some background concerns that are really the issue. We have a culture that treats women like the sexual property of men in some very basic sense. It diminishes their worth. Their worth is explicitly diminished, and this is an outward sign of that captivity, which is genuinely problematic for people. Effacing people is intrinsically isolating, and when it's done either under true coercion or tacit coercion, it clearly should be a concern of the state. Now, I think I share your concern. I think people should be free to dress however they want to dress, but we're talking about a context in which women are denied medical care because they can't be released from their husbands. France does this in
the name of a secular state. That's that whether it's a fig leaf or whether that is the genuine conviction. Yeah. But I mean, Syria claims to be a secular state. There is no truly secular state anywhere, is there?
Well, there are some, but that's not the crucial issue. The issue is here. We're talking about how can women flourish in this world.
Sorry, say again.
I mean, we all should be united in a concern for women flourishing. Women have been treated horribly for thousands of years in the context of religion, and there's a theology that diminishes their status. Now, of course, this is true in Judaism and Christianity, but Jews and Christians have gotten over this to a remarkable degree, and this inequality, which treats women like property, is uniquely a problem in the Muslim world.
What do you make of that argument?
Who?
Sorry, you, yes. I'm so sorry, you obviously didn't hear me. What do you make of this argument that there is that is particularly to do with the oppression of women?
It's for me, you're asking me the question.
I'm asking you the question. The point is specific to Islam.
Yes. No, I think that once again, if you look at this, don't discuss this issue in that way, because at the end of the day, this is not the discussion. When you have women telling me or telling us and telling all the world, this is our decision, we want it, in fact, exactly for the opposite way of looking at the thing. It's for me not to be the property of man, and then we want to, this is the way we understand Islam. Once again, I don't think it's the right way, but we have to listen to women who are telling you this, and it's not for the state to tell us the way we dress. And once again, what we heard right now, it's exactly this. We are talking about all the religions, but at the end of the day, we think it's only Islam which is oppressing women, that it's wrong with women. I think that this is a discussion which is a pure stigmatization of Muslim, and if we want to solve the problem, it's a question of education and let the woman decide. A woman was fine because she was driving with a niqab. At the end, she won against the state because it was a wrong decision. And we are always trying to come with new rules and reducing the freedom of expression of Muslims against the minarets, against the hijab, against the burqa. We don't... What does it mean? Does it mean that the only right way of being a Muslim in Europe today, a good European Muslims, is an invisible Muslims? We don't want to see them. We don't want to see them in the street. We don't want to eat
why
any
are you
symbols.
shaking your head?
I'm shaking my head because I disagree with just about everything Tariq just said, and it's interesting that he used the word invisible,
But
because
of course
that's exactly
you
what the
disagree because
niqab
you are
does.
working with the neocon in the States.
I'm working with the who? Can you prove that? This is libelous what you're saying. I am certainly not working with the neocons. Did you hear what he just said? This is exactly the problem that a Muslim and a feminist actually faces. You have to stop talking now because it's my turn. This is what happens when a Muslim and a feminist speaks out. She is silenced, or they try to silence me by saying I am a neocon. That is absolute nonsense. This is what's happening here. You are supporting. I'm not a victim. I'm no one's victim. You are supporting the very thing you claim to be attacking. You support the invisibility of women. The niqab renders women invisible. And let's be real here. Feminist organizations on the ground will tell you that women have no say in this. Stop talking, I'm talking. Women on the ground have no say in this because when they start to talk, you silence them. People like you silence them. The Muslim right wing has been encroaching on women's rights gradually,
You
and no one has said
them.
anything.
You don't want to hear the women.
Liberal groups have said nothing. The left wing have been silent, while Muslim women have been disappeared, all in the sake of fighting Islamophobia. I fight Islamophobia. I was standing outside of that mosque in New York. I wrote opinion pieces against the minaret ban.
There's one thing to start banning a minaret, and it's another
I'm going to silence all of you now, I think.
A woman. You cannot sit there and libel me and try to silence me.
All right, okay, that's enough for now. Thank you very much indeed. All right, all three of you, thank you so much. Thank you. Right, now earlier today there was talk of a possible ceasefire settlement in Libya. The African Union claimed to have negotiated a deal Colonel Gaddafi would accept. Unfortunately,